Hello, my name is Dr. Robin Phelps-Ward. I'm the Associate Dean of the Graduate School and also an Associate Professor of Higher Education. I've been asked to talk with you all today about developing research posters with style. We've all been to conferences and seen those posters that have teeny tiny font and tons of words, few pictures, where the presenter maybe doesn't even explain what's on the poster. And so this presentation is to help you avoid that, to create posters that are engaging, that attract your audience, and tell a story about your research. So today, I want to talk with you about the why of research posters, the goals of them, steps for creating research posters, formatting tips, share some resources, and also share a few examples of my own. So first of all, why do we do the poster presentation in the first place? Well, first, to capture an audience's attention. Again, we want to bring people over, especially in a sea of other poster presentations. We want people to come and talk with us. We also facilitate poster presentations because we want to present our information in a clear, concise, and engaging way. Sometimes going to a round table or a paper presentation or even a symposia is too much to really get across the message of your research. And so posters give us the highlights of our research, tell us concisely and illustratively what we are researching. And then finally, another goal of posters is to initiate dialogue about our topic. I love facilitating poster presentations because I get to talk to passersby, people who might not even be interested in my research related to mentoring or Black women and their natural hair or other topics. And then they get inspired, they get excited. And so we start to have dialogue about the topic. So all of these are goals of posters, but one thing that I'd like you to take away from this and remember, and I'm in the way of it right now, is that you and your work are the focus. So our posters should not speak for us. They should be a supplement, a complement to what we are saying. Alrighty, so let's talk about the steps of creating a poster. The first is to identify your goals. What's the overall objective for your presentation? Are we trying to present the findings of our research because we've gotten to the end of it and we want to share what we found? Is our goal to introduce a topic? Maybe we've got a particular audience that we want to share a new conceptual framework. And so we want to give them a taste of what this new idea is all about. And then maybe we're trying to persuade our audience to do or think or believe something. So all of these are different types of goals that we have when we're trying to present our research, our creative work, whatever it is that we're facilitating a presentation about through a poster. So we've got to be clear on what our goals are, because depending on your goals, you might organize and facilitate differently. So the next is to create a plan or outline. Just like you would with a paper or any other presentation, you want to create a plan. So some research poster components, which you'll commonly see on a poster, are the purpose, the research questions, maybe the literature review, a background information about the methods or methodology, what our findings and results are, our conclusions or discussion, and then implications for either practice and or research. So those are the components, and you can outline those on a paper in a document and then translate that into your poster. When we're doing more conceptual creative posters, sometimes we want to focus on the purpose or problem of practice related to our work, some definitions to give our audience some context for what we're working on, the background of our work as well. So maybe the historical and theoretical foundations related to the work, some discussion, and then recommendations and conclusion. So regardless if we're doing a research poster or a conceptual creative poster, we've got to outline and plan what we want to put on that poster. So now that you've created an outline, you're going to actually map out the poster. So this is actually sitting down and spatially moving pieces around. So do you want to highlight the title of your poster presentation at the top? Do you want to put it in the center? Do you want to put it on along the side? Where do you want to have emphasis? Do you want to focus on your methodology? Do you want to focus on the background? Maybe the findings are the emphasis. So mapping out your poster, creating a sketch of the information you want to include, and where you will place it on that poster is the next step. After that, you're actually going to place your documents, your components into your document. So whether you're using PowerPoint, which is a go-to of mine, or Canva or Adobe InDesign or another software or program, you're going to actually put those pieces onto the page. And sometimes it's nice to just throw everything out there, all of the pieces, and play around with different slides to move things around until you get the perfect fit. Next, you're going to adhere to the guidelines. So if you're presenting at a conference, a symposium, some other kind of large organization event, you're going to find out what it is they want you to have your poster look like. Maybe they want the organization's title on your poster, or they want everyone to include a QR code. So find out what the expectations and guidelines are for your conference organization and make sure you adhere to them. They might want you to put your name or your principal investigator's name as well on your poster. And then finally, proofread and ask for feedback. So seek out your faculty, your friends, family members, even who could say, this isn't really clear, or that is really small, hard to read. So they can share with you those tips to make your presentation, your poster better. All right, so let's talk about formatting. One thing that's important with posters, because you're going to have people looking at your work from a distance, at least 6 feet, you're going to make sure that the font is large enough to be legible. So for body font, you're going to stay between 35 and 60. Point font, accent font, which is like what we see here, the use large and legible font, is going to be between 60 and 100, and your heading font between 100 and 160. If you're going less than 335, it's going to be very difficult for your audience, visitors to read. So make sure you use a legible font and think about the font type as well. Sometimes we get a little bit too creative and there's not enough contrast, or we have sans serif letters or serif letters that really bleed together, the kerning where the letters are placed too closely together, and it's just really difficult to read. So pay attention to a font that is going to be accessible. Next, use contrasting colors that are easy to see. So black and white are really helpful colors. If you're going to use color, make sure you're using complementary colors. So that means avoiding using black font on a navy blue background, which none of us would do, but that's the kind of inaccessible contrast that we want to avoid. Use solid backgrounds. Sometimes we can get creative. We want a background that is our institution's logo multiple times as the background with some transparency. But when you put that background in behind text, it can be really hard to read the text. So try to use lighter backgrounds with minimal graphics and images so that your font and your text is easy to read. Some more formatting tips. Use high quality photos. I don't know how many times I've come across a poster and they've used clip art or they've used photos that they've taken, but they're very grainy. So make sure you're using high quality photos. So stick to free open access photos as well. Use a balance of text and graphics. So consider white space. You don't want to have too much blank area, but you don't want to have so much text that it's overwhelming to the eye. And then finally, consider using your contact information. So you could just put the name, email, phone number, website, or you can use things like tiny URLs and QR codes. So a few resources that I have used in the past to help me create engaging, stylish posters. One is dafont.com, and this is a resource to help you download beautiful fonts to make your poster pop. So the font that you saw on the first slide where it's a little bit cursive, the word style, that was from dafont.com. I actually have my own font there. It's called Robin Hood. You can create TTF files easily with a grid, but there you can download fonts that are not typical, not your standard Times New Roman or Calibri or Arial, just to make those accents or title fonts pop on your poster. Another guide and resource is creating conference posters. A website includes do's and don'ts and templates and presentation advice. So if you're stuck for how to lay out your presentation, your poster, you can find different ways that people have organized how they've set up their poster. Another resource, and part of the name is called Pimp My Poster, and there you can browse through hundreds of different posters. And then finally, websites like Canva that I'm using now, Adobe Express, Vista Create are others that you can use. And one note about Adobe Express and Canva, if you're using images that are just be sure that you're using images that are accessible to everyone or that are not licensed when you're using those. Sometimes Adobe Express will also allow you to use AI to create images. So just be thoughtful about what you're creating. All right, so a few examples. So we're going to look at some that I've created so that you can have an idea. And this is one from a long time ago when I was in graduate school. I think the layout is interesting, but some of the font is difficult to read, particularly this white and navy and this black against the graphic here. So these are the things I was referring to related to contrast. But there's a QR code on that one. This one, the font is larger. It's a little more easier to read. We've got links here to different websites, and we've got just kind of the way that things are organized across the page in different sections. So that might be a way for you to organize your space. We've got a balance of images and graphics and text. Here's another one. Again, the layout is a little bit different. We've got it mirroring what used to be a um, yeah, an Apple or Safari browser, but the contrast here makes it really difficult to read the text. Here's another one for you to examine and see if this might be an inspiration for you. This one as well, less about research and more about an organization's work. And here finally is one that I've had students create for a presentation inspired by a photo voice project. This one as well, similar, and again, organized completely different, where we've got images relegated to the left-hand side and our text on the right, but there is a little bit of unused white space here that I would say could be used. So those are some examples. I want to share a few lessons that I've learned the hard way when it comes to creating and facilitating poster presentations. One is to bring your supplies. So push pins, tape, binder clips, bring those things with you. Don't rely on the conference venue or the symposium to have everything you need. They might say they are going to, but not actually have everything set up. So bring what you need. Print your poster at least a week in advance to avoid delays. This is in particular for folks who are at Ball State and using the university libraries on a day of maybe like the university symposium where everybody and their mother is trying to print. So make sure that you plan ahead of time so that you are not under pressure at the last minute. Invest in a poster carrying tube to avoid destruction during transport. So this is a really nice version of one, but you can get them at Walmart and Michael's and other craft stores as well. Staples has them, and they also sell cardboard, thick cardboard tubes that are much more cost effective. Create note cards with your main points so you don't have to look back at your poster information. So sometimes people are turned the opposite way, staring at their reading off of their presentation. So to make sure you know what's on your poster and that you don't have to turn your back to your audience, have some note cards with your main points and maybe even work on memorizing your elevator pitch or that first couple of minutes that you would like to share the highlights of your work with an audience member. Another lesson I learned the hard way is scoping out the poster presentation space in advance. Sometimes there are lots of poster presentations, posters in the same room, and you're like right next to the next poster presenter. And so you might consider dressing a little bit more light so that you're not hot. Or maybe you find out that there isn't a board, it's actually a wall where everybody's putting their posters on that wall. So finding out the perfect supply to adhere your poster is helpful. If you go in advance, you'll know exactly what to bring, if possible. Sometimes we can't always get there ahead of time. Another lesson is that if you see a design you like online, recreate it in PowerPoint or Canva. So don't feel restricted. If you see a design on a poster, you get inspiration. I see inspiration, I get inspiration every day, from billboards to being on my phone to walking around campus and being in the museum. So if there's something that you see that you think, oh my goodness, this would be amazing as a presentation design, recreate it to the best of your ability in spaces like PowerPoint and Canva. And then finally, avoid copy pasting sections of your paper, emphasize the highlights only. You should very rarely have full sentences on your poster. Again, people can turn to your full paper to read your work, to a report to read your work. What they want to see on your poster is the highlights, the nitty-gritty details that we have to know to really understand what you're doing. So keep it minimal. And again, make sure that you are the focus. Your work on your poster is the complement. Alrighty, so that's the end of the presentation. I hope this was helpful. I hope this guides you as you create beautiful, stylish poster presentations that are accessible and engaging. If you need feedback, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is there, rjphelpsward@bsu.edu. You have access to a link for these slides if you just want to work with them and not watch the video again. But again, please reach out and good luck on your poster presentations.